selected group of humans are sent to a mysterious remote island in the middle of the ocean. These humans have somehow evolved into a new race of people known as the Talented. To the rest of the world, they are considered as their only hope in surviving the war between humanity and the alien monsters who have come to Earth to destroy all of mankind. These monsters are now commonly known as the enemies of humanity. The story begins in an unknown year, somewhere in the early 2000s. Our main protagonist is a boy named Nano Nakajima, who lives here on this island among the other talented human race. However, he was apparently born without any talents, and thus leading him to be an embarrassment to the rest of his family, who are quite the opposite. His father had ordered him to leave at once and was sent to this academy to eventually find out his talent, and so he is also far away from his family. This island seems to be some kind of training camp or school for all the talented people and is completely isolated from the rest of the world. The island doesn't receive any communication from the outside world, unless someone calls the teacher from the headquarters, which are the owners of the island and the task force to destroy enemies of humanity. Nakajima is an outcast and a subject of bullying in the class due to his lack of powers, and gets picked on by his peers. One day the teacher introduces two new students to the class, the first being a boy called Kailia Onodira. After a crybaby big mouth named Ijima Mogo, the class brute demands Kailia to reveal what his talent is, but the teacher interrupts him and tells Mogo that his talent remains a secret. This makes Nakajima suspect that he must be very powerful, as those who like to keep their talents a secret normally have the best abilities in the class. After, a pink-haired girl walks in with a bubbly personality and introduces herself as Nana. She doesn't keep anything a secret at all, and immediately tells the other students what her power is, which is mind reading. But not only can she read minds, but she can also dig deep into people's mind and look at their past experiences and memories they had from a very long time ago. She explains how she's always listening to people's inner voices and likes to help those when they are overthinking too much. The teacher tells her to sit at the back of the class, and this happens to be the seat next to Nakajima. She immediately discovers through Nakajima's mind about the rest of the class looking down on him, as that's all he thinks about. He gets nervous when a beautiful girl like Nana sits down next to him, and can't imagine how a girl that looks like her would want to even help him in any way. Due to her reading his personality traits, she already wants to become friends with him. She starts to find out more about him using her powers, and discovers more about Nakajima's past life memories before coming to the island, and comes to realize that his dad was a very proud millionaire who was disappointed in his son for not being useful in the family. Nana knows that Nakajima wants to do everything possible to win back his father's approval. As a way of keeping his father's respect, his father gave him the responsibility of looking after the family watch, and Nakajima promises to keep it safe. Nana also knows that Nakajima needs to get a chance to be the leader of the class, something his father will be proud about, but she knows he will never vote himself in. So Nana quickly volunteers for him to be the new class rep and points out all his best qualities. However, the two most popular students, Mogo and Seiya, also voted themselves in. An argument occurs on who will be the next class rep. At this moment, Kailia begins to stop all the arguing, and proposes a duel match between the three to settle it instead. After school, Nana follows Nakajima home and asks if he would show her around the island, as she still feels very new to everything. As Nakajima walks her around, they talk about their past lives before coming to the island. And while talking, Nana nearly fell down, but Nakajima quickly saves her. She tells him that she felt some sort of entity push her away, and they both think it might be one of the enemies of humanity. Later at night, they're both walking back to their dormitories, and Nana brings up Nakajima's relationship with his father. This annoyed him, as they are his personal and private memories that he doesn't want to discuss with anyone. However, she continues to try and understand how he feels, but he gets upset with Nana for bringing up things that are personal to him. She still doesn't understand why it was a problem for her picking him to be the class rep, since that way he can finally prove his leading abilities to his father, which is all he ever wanted. But Nakajima tells Nana that voting him in is pointless, since it's impossible for him to win as he doesn't possess any talent. The next day at school, Mogo the Fire Brute and Seiya the Ice Wizard are ready to fight for the position to be the new class rep. They enter the battlefield and use a series of attacks against one another, until Seiya uses ice magic to freeze his legs and wins against Mogo. This humiliates the brute, making him extremely angry. So Mogo uses all his power to form a huge fireball and throws it at Seiya, but it nearly hits the entire class, until Nakajima jumps in the way and stops the huge fire blast. thus revealing his hidden talent. It turns out that Nakajima's power is to nullify other people's talents, so he can stop another person's abilities. For some reason he kept this a secret as he thinks it's useless compared to other people's powers. However, everyone is shocked by this and thanks Nakajima, and because of what he did, he became the new class representative. Nakajima decides that he should thank Nana for being his only friend in the class, and the only person who stood up for him, so they both meet on a mountainside. They begin to talk about the enemies of humanity, and the possibility that there was an infiltrator in the school, since these monsters could take any kind of form, even human forms, so even a student could very well be one of these monsters. It is at this moment that Nana's cute persona changes to a dark one, and she eats him off the cliff. Bewildered, Nakajima is holding onto a thin rope for dear life and asks her what is going on. This is when Nana reveals how she's actually a talentless student, and isn't part of their talented race. She's actually just a normal human being, and it turns out that the enemies of humanity that the talented students are training to fight against don't actually exist, and there are no giant monsters which they read about in their textbooks. But in reality, the real enemies of humanity are in fact the talented beings. She explains to Nakajima that around 5 years ago, the normal humans got sick of these talented individuals which were rapidly increasing around the world. These new form of humans who could possess special powers stopped using them to fight crime and help humanity, but instead they were using these powers for their own benefits and financial gain, destroying the world we know, breaking all laws, and this eventually started a war between the talented humans and the normal humans. Humanity actually won the war, and after winning the war, the youngest talented beings who survived are now isolated on these remote islands, away from the real world. And from a young age they are all taught that they are being trained here to be Earth's superheroes, and must learn how to defeat the enemies of humanity. But that's something that the humans just made up, because in reality, they only put the talented people on these islands so that humans can remain in control of the world that we know. So they set up this secret operation, which is to eliminate the talented beings before they can master their supernatural abilities. For this they need to send a regular human onto the island to figure out their abilities and then assassinate them, kind of like Amugus. The infiltrator they sent this time is Nana, and even though she's just an ordinary human with no powers, she actually has superior intelligence and is a great judge of character. So together with her incredibly good deductive abilities and high IQ, she can easily make the other students believe that she has the talent to read other people's minds, and that way she could blend in with the talented beings. Her mission given by the human headquarters is to find out these talented people's powers and eliminate as many of them as possible. Her first target was Nakajima, but he's now been eliminated, so now she must go on and get the others. The next day the class heads down to the lake, and here Nana gets to witness the true strength of Seiya's freezing abilities, when he freezes the entire lake within seconds. Nana notices how thick the ice was, and can conclude that it will take at least 5 days for it all to completely melt. Later on in class, Nana sits with Seiya and gets some more information about his talent, but meanwhile Mogo is bullying another student. Mogo goes in to punch the victim, but unexpectedly gets knocked down. This happens to be Shibusawa's doing, another talented student who can manipulate time. Seiya talks to Nana about Shibusawa's abilities, and how he might just be the most powerful one in the entire class, as Shibusawa can actually stop and go back and forth through time, and change the future of certain scenarios. Upon hearing this, Nana marks him as her next target as he seems too OP, and can ruin her ultimate goal of eliminating every talented person on the island. So with that being said, Nana meets up with Shibusawa for lunch, and puts on a cute little act that she has a crush on him, only to acquire more information about his powers. She wants to know of all of his limitations and weaknesses. She manages to discover that he can only go back in time for a maximum of 24 hours. He could also go back for more time as he travels in the past, but doing this will make him incredibly tired. Nana devises a plan on how to kill Shibusawa, but at this moment, the mysterious white-haired student, a new boy who also joined on the same day as Nana, named Kyoya, and whose talent still remains a secret, joins in on their conversation, and seemingly interrogates Nana about Nakajima. Kyoya seems interested and concerned about his sudden disappearance. However, Nana pushes the narrative away from herself by calling Kyoya an enemy of humanity, for being the one who's not revealing his powers, and Shibusawa ignorantly takes Nana's side, as he seems to like her. So Kyoya just walks away to avoid even more suspicion. After the interaction with Kyoya, Shibusawa now seems worried about the Nakajima situation, and wants to discover more about Nakajima's sudden disappearance as well. and he tells Nana that he will help to try and find her friend. However, not knowing that this will lead to his ultimate demise, as Nana was able to send him to the exact moment in time when the lake was just being frozen by Satan, and thus trapping him under the lake, which will be frozen for at least 5 days. So say goodbye to my man Shibusawa. Nana has now eliminated 2 targets, but her only problem was the new boy Kyoya, who's already starting to suspect Nana, and already has some kind of idea of what's going on here. It turns out that they might be the same in some ways, or he might be even smarter, but she still needs to find out his real talent. So she takes it upon herself to do any means necessary to reveal Kyoya's powers so that she can figure out a way to dispose of him as soon as possible. She needs to know more about him, so she begins to follow him around school. By doing this, she discovers he had been feeding a kitten in the janitor's shed, and he always buys a box of milk, which he heats up and feeds it to the stray cat every day at lunch. Later on, Nana approaches him again under the context of wanting to be his friend, and so he invites her into his room, which seems to look more like a library instead of a normal boy's bedroom. However, he does leave Nana a lot of different clues, which she can use to start understanding his secret power. After looking around his room, she deducts that one of Kyoya's weaknesses was that he has no sense of smell, as he seems to keep labels on all his food and groceries, and these labels also have the expiry dates on them, so she can also predict that Kyoya can't see color, and his vision is permanently in black and white. After some brief deduction, the two of them start playing video games together, and he reveals that he has a younger sister, who was also a talented one and was sent to this island. However, he never heard from her ever again, so his goal on the island, other than studying the enemies of humanity, is to also find out what happened to his younger sister, and he thinks that whatever happened to Nakajima will lead him to finding out the answers. Kyoya asks Nana to accompany him over to Nakajima's crime scene, and also interrogates her once again. She doesn't understand why he's being so hostile, and she wants him to reveal more about himself since he's so mysterious, and she makes up an excuse that he's scaring her. So this time Nana asks him what his real talent is, but Kyoya gets the upper hand and begins to doubt if she is really talented and can read people's minds, since Kyoya's talent is all he's ever thinking about. But somehow she still doesn't know what it is. But since Kyoya doesn't have enough evidence that she isn't talented, or any proof that she was involved in Nakajima's disappearance that night, he can't incriminate her yet, so he just lets it all go for now, and then asks Nana if they should become friends, and she agrees. The next day, Nana prepares a trap on Kyoya, after knowing his daily routines of feeding the cat during his lunch break, and she turns on the gas inside the shed. She does it in such a way that when he turns on the stove, the whole shed would explode, which would be a great way to reveal his talent. When Kyoya enters the shed, he can't smell anything, and he turns on the stove so the whole shed explodes, and Kyoya is seen completely burned alive and on the floor. Pretending to be innocent, Nana approaches the burnt corpse of Kyoya and yells out to him, saying she will send for help. But to her surprise, a half-dead Kyoya grabs Nana's leg, which finally reveals his power, which is immortality. So no matter what anyone tries to do to him, killing him is impossible, and because she was the first to arrive to the scene, he now thinks she's the enemy of humanity. But right after, Kyoya admits he took things way too far, and he calms down, and now has a different mindset, and thinks maybe Nana is really only trying to help him, and he comes back to realization, then apologizes to Nana, and says he hopes they can still be friends for now. Nana can't have Kyoya thinking of her as the main culprit, so she devises a plan to remove herself from suspicion. Later on that day, Nana ends up meeting a kind-hearted girl called Michiru, who's a somewhat clumsy girl, but she's way too kind of a person. Her ability consists of healing anyone right on the spot, just by simply using her saliva. She gets closer with Michiru by helping her with the class bullies, and they become really good friends. However, she only does this as she needs Michiru for her next plan. During the night, Nana decides to stab her own back. After, Michiru screams loudly, and Kyoya meets them at the scene of the crime. Nana, who had been stabbed, done this knowing that Michiru would save her. When asked who done this to her, Nana tells them it was an enemy of humanity's doing, and that the enemies of humanity can also turn invisible. But after hearing her story, Kyoya still doesn't believe her, and already suspects that she may have stabbed herself. But once again, he tells himself that he's only guessing with his detective skills, and has no real hard evidence that Nana actually done this to herself. The next day during class, they conclude Nakajima was killed by an enemy of humanity, and therefore they need to select a new class rep. Nana gains the confidence of the class for being brave enough to face an enemy of humanity, and surviving one, so they decide to make her the new class leader. Her first command as the class leader was to order a specific student to find out more about the other students and start writing down everyone's abilities. Her brilliant excuse for this was that they need to prepare everyone for the upcoming attack, and makes up a reason that the monsters are already on the island. However, this backfires when after school she runs into a boy called Tsunakichi, who shows her a photo of what's about to happen to them in the next few hours. He reveals how he has the power to see into the future and asks Nana to explain herself. He tells Nana that his photographs are from the future, and while he's dreaming, photos are being captured into 5 photographs at a time. And they will tell him the future, which is something that is 100% going to happen without a doubt, as his power never fails to tell the future. Tsunakichi has been taking photos ever since she arrived, and reveals how he knows about her killing Nakajima, and he also knows about her trapping Shibusawa, the teleport time travel boy, under the lake. So now, knowing that he's going to be killed by Nana next, he decides to blackmail her by saying he is going to tell the others about her being the real enemy of humanity. However, in exchange for his silence, he asks if she will be his girlfriend, and then takes her back to his room. He makes her give him a massage and spend the night with him. At that moment she observes how his power works.